You've been told your hands are tools, but that's not quite true. They're not just instruments. They are conduits through which spirit, thought, will, and energy flow. From the moment you reached for a crayon or held your mother's hand, the universe began shaping how you would use them. Write neatly, sit still, fold your hands, raise them only with permission. Slowly you were taught that your hands weren't vessels of power, but symbols of obedience. But this was only because they understood something you hadn't yet grasped. Hands carry codes. They are a language, a channel of energy that doesn't just reflect your inner state, it shapes it. Your hands speak. The ancients knew this. So did yogis, shamans, and mystics. They didn't raise their hands to ask for permission, they raised them to summon energy, to direct intention, to heal, to guide invisible forces. Somewhere along the way you forgot, or rather, you were trained to forget. But now it's time to remember. Before textbooks, laboratories, or written words, there were hands open, deliberate, and powerful. Ancient mystics didn't need wires or machines to work with energy. They discovered the most advanced tools of transformation were not crafted in stone or silicon, but lived in their own flesh. They knew something most of us were never taught, that your hands are energy conductors. They can shape thought, amplify intention, and bring healing not just metaphorically, but physically, neurologically, and spiritually. Stay with me until the end of this video, because in the final moments I will guide you through a forgotten hand activation ritual, once used by ancient mystics to realign the flow of energy in the body. If this awakens something within you, don't forget to subscribe. Together we'll continue uncovering the hidden teachings written not in books, but in the body, the breath, and the unseen. The earliest mentions of mudras, sacred hand gestures used to channel energy and unlock specific states of consciousness, are found in ancient texts like the Upanishads, Samhita, and Tantra Shastra. These weren't just symbolic illustrations. They were energetic blueprints. Every angle of a finger, every contact point between thumb and fingertip held a purpose. These gestures weren't merely ritualistic. They were mechanisms, interfaces between inner awareness and the surrounding energy field that constantly responds to us. Take the Jnana Mudra, where the thumb touches the index finger, while the other three fingers remain extended. This wasn't for spiritual aesthetics. Yogis used it to connect insight with intention, sending signals of clarity to the nervous system and awakening stillness in the mind. But somewhere along the way, we lost that wisdom, or more precisely, we were led away from it. Today, we live in a world of swipes, taps, scrolls, and screens. Our hands, once sacred instruments of intention, have become tools of consumption. The same fingers that once activated portals now launch apps. Yet the original code is still there, hidden beneath the noise of culture and the distractions of digital life, waiting to be remembered and reactivated. Mudras like Dhyana Prana, Anjali, Apana, and Shuni each carry a unique vibration and purpose. Some calm the mind, others energize the body, purify energy, sharpen focus, or restore connection. Their power doesn't rely on belief, they work regardless. Ancient mystics understood something. Science now confirms hand gestures influence brain function. They engage feedback loops, stimulate neural pathways, and redirect attention. This can shift mood, change physiology, and create a sense of centeredness. Form affects mind and the body listens to the hand. This isn't superstition, it's an invitation to rediscover a forgotten relationship with the part of you that touches everything. Your hands are not just the ends of your arms, they are extensions of your consciousness. They hold energy, memory, and will. Used unconsciously, they drain power. Used with intention, they become channels of transformation. And this is only the beginning. There are truths too ancient, too deep to fully reveal in a single video. There is a rationale to the employment of particular gestures by spiritual leaders, warriors, and ancient healers alike. It wasn't because they were attractive. Rather, they were functional. Their patterns, their codes, their influence on hormonal signals, and their ability to attach thoughts into the body all contribute to the formation of energy fields. When we talk about manifestation, we act as if it is all in the head, but thought that is not aligned with the physical world is just noise. Gesture is the means by which cognition is given form. Not only are your fingers not haphazard, but your palms are not unresponsive, and the space that exists between your hands is not vacant. The moment you learn to mold it, you will no longer let your energy to be determined by chance. It is truly living. you cease your search for clarity and begin to construct it instead. Rather than wishing for change, you begin to channel it, since your hands were never intended to be idle. Rather, they were intended to be used for the sake of creating. Every time you move your hands, you are communicating not with words but with energy. And whether you are aware of it or not, something or someone is always listening to what you have to say. The body, the intellect, and the field that surrounds you all listen to what you have to say. Signals are continually being transmitted by your hands, regardless of whether they are moving stationary or placed in a certain posture. However, the issue is that you have never been taught the language by anyone. When a yogi makes a mudra, they are not simply molding their fingers, rather they are completing a circle around their spine. There is a connection made between the electrical signals in the body and the intentions of the mind through the fingers, which act as conduits. Furthermore, the body is electrical in addition to being biological. There is energy all around you, and you are pulsating with energy. You are formed of energy. It is not enough to say that the hands are extensions of the body. They are also regulators of the flow. Chaos, anxiety, exhaustion, and confusion are the things that result when the flow is misaligned or when it is unconscious. When it is aligned, however, it transforms into precision, calmness, magnetism, and flow. Give it some thought. Hands are involved in every significant religious or ceremonial practice that you have witnessed, including prayer, hands, palms, open hands placed over the heart, and hands raised to the heavens. In every religion, from Catholicism to Hinduism, from Buddhist monks to Islamic sujud, the placement of the hands is never a coincidence. Since the beginning of time, the act of arranging one's hands in a certain configuration has been a declaration that is both symbolic and energetic. When you choose a state, the hands communicate that choice to the system, both internally and externally. Focus, reverence, surrender, receiving, and offering are all important. Even when you are going about your daily activities, your hands are always taking part in special rituals. The handshake, which is a worldwide sign of peace and non-aggression, is the way that you meet someone. You put up your hand to make a statement. The wave is a symbol of your presence. When you say "I," you put your palm on your chest and make a gesture. Everything was passed down from generation to generation. On the other hand, you were never instructed to utilize it with intention. The ceremonies were preserved. There was no awareness of this. There is a gap between gesture and meaning, and power is leaking out of that gap. Your hands, which were formerly employed to mold your breath and create focus, are now being used to scroll endlessly over the internet. You clench your fists, fidget, tap, swipe, and hold the steering wheel. You also clench your fists. At this moment, the majority of your hand movements are reactionary rather than intentional. It is tension, distraction, and boredom that causes them to react. Instead of being instruments of choice, they are instruments of conditioning. I am not making a mistake here. This was done on purpose. When you are taught to use your hands exclusively for consumption and productivity, never for quiet and never for energy, you are being taught to live an external life, and you are being taught to forget that these instruments were once gateways. Rather of being extensions of you, your hands have become extensions of technology, of capitalism, and of busyness. However, they are not extensions of your inner world or of your sovereignty. Aesthetics were not something that the old wise man was concerned with. There was no intention of displaying spirituality for the sake of appearance in their actions. They were energy engineers in the making. They were aware that different combinations of fingers connected various meridians, which were lines of energy that connected organs to thoughts, emotions to breath, and spirit to the body. It was not a matter of guesswork when they brought their thumb to their ring finger. Prana, the vital power, was being reawakened by them. They were not being courteous as they sat in meditation with their palms facing down. They were establishing a connection with their conscious mind. And here's when things get interesting. Your hands are still communicating, still signaling, still giving energy out, and still receiving energy back, even if you don't believe in any of this. There is life in the circuit regardless of whether or not you are aware of it. If you do not learn how to direct it, then someone else will have already done it. The reason being that energy does not vanish. The call is redirected. This is absorbed by it. It has been taken over. When you are not conscious of your motions, you become a transmitter without control, sending out signals of fear, attracting distraction, and reinforcing thoughts that are not even your own. When on the other hand, you choose your motions when you move with presence, and when you build the code with intention, you become magnetic resonant and tuned in to something ancient and intelligent that has been waiting for you to remember it. At all times, a circuit is active. It is a question that needs to be answered. Are you finally prepared to take command of the signal? It is for a specific reason that the number 3 is present everywhere. The Holy Trinity, the 3 pyramids of Giza, the triple goddess, Father, Son. Holy Spirit, mind, body, and spirit are all examples of ancient symbols that can be found in spiritual theology, architecture, geometry, and religion. It is not a confluence of events. No, this is not a superstition, as the law states. The principle of 3 serves as the basis for everything, including the processes of creation, transformation, and manifestation. Furthermore, when the ancients discussed the concept of the Trinity, they were not merely referring to it in a metaphorical sense. The point they were making was that there was something that was very real, very practical, and extremely profound. This is alignment. With the title of Master of the 3 Planes of Existence, Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Thrice Great Hermes, was held in high esteem at the mental, bodily, and spiritual levels, rather than in isolation, but in tandem, together as one. Given that power is not solely a matter of ideas, the resonance that is produced that occurs when intellect form and spirit move in unison is where it is found. The Trinity is just that. When you use your hands in a conscious manner, they become the instrument that links them together. It is the mentality that determines the path. The gesture is carried out by the body. It is the spirit that drives the current. Your hands transform into something more than just flesh when all 3 are in harmony. They become into instruments of making things manifest. This is the reason why mudras were not created solely for the purpose of beauty or ceremonial. Mechanical, energetic, and metaphysical switches were all included in their design. It's not simply posture when you press your thumb on your fingertip. Yes, it is a command. The nervous system is instructed to enter a new condition by this signal. With the same level of accuracy that a conductor does when shaping music, it forms energy. A form is brought into existence as a result of its activation of something that lies underneath mind and speech. However, when these 3 layers are not in harmony with one another, when the mind says one thing, the body performs another, and the spirit is left behind, you become fragmented. It is no longer coherent. You transform into a dispersed energy, and the energy that is scattered is weak. It makes a lot of noise. It is not capable of breaking through barriers or attracting the things that you claim to desire. Given that purpose is nothing more than wishful thinking in the absence of alignment. Observe the manner in which individuals navigate the environment, uttering words that they do not intend to say, smiling with eyes that are filled with tiredness, and holding their hands in ways that clearly indicate that they are experiencing discomfort. Even though they refuse to acknowledge it, their bodies are screaming. Moreover, it is not merely awkward, it is risky to do so, mostly due to the fact that the universe does not react to what you say. It reacts to who you are, what you hold, and what you emit, and the things that you put out into the world are sent through your hands. It is a distortion of the energy when you try to speak in a peaceful manner while simultaneously gesturing in rage. When you pray with your hands clenched for fear, the signal gets jumbled up and difficult to understand. The flow of things is obstructed when you set goals, but your actions tell a different tale than what you intended. Because of this, Hermetic teachings placed a strong emphasis on congruence. The act of building a life that physically, emotionally, and energetically reflects positive thoughts is much more important than simply having great thoughts. In order to achieve this congruence, the hands are needed. They are not dishonest. They indicate the alignment of your internal structure or the lack thereof. Your intention is firmly rooted in the material world thanks to them. And when they are utilized appropriately, they create the bridge that connects your desire to the fulfillment of that want. Through them, the intangible is made apparent, and through them, thinking is transformed into reality. Just picture this. Peace is a mental image that you see. There is a slowing of the breath. The mudra of receptivity is where the hands are resting. In your hands is the shape. You can't escape the shape. The neurological system becomes more at ease. The thoughts become more keen. Changes occur in the space around you. That is not a miracle. Coherence lies in that. And power is created via coherence. There is not power over other people, but power over the fog. It is the uncertainty, for the terror, the cacophony of a world that is working tirelessly to divert your attention away from itself. For the simple reason that fragmented people are easier to sell to, easier to control, and easier to anticipate, the world wants you to be fragmented. But folks who are aligned, the way they move is different. They become apparent suddenly. They are able to comprehend illusions. They attain the status of sovereign. And the single most insignificant decision is the key that unlocks the door to that alignment and to that sovereignty. When you use your hands to do something, it is not because most individuals do not want something enough that they are unable to create it. The incoherence of their energy is the reason for their failure. The two of them have conflicting goals. They are making an effort to reach, but their body is putting up a fight. One reality is communicated by their words, while another reality is lived by their deeds. And at the core of this misalignment, which goes unnoticed and is frequently disregarded, are their hands, which emit frequencies that are in direct opposition to the outcomes these individuals are seeking. Hands are involved in every action you take, whether it be reaching for something, talking about a dream, or sitting down to create something. If, on the other hand, they are moving out of habit rather than awareness, then they become agents of noise. When your hands are trembling with uncertainty, you cannot speak with authority. Being anxious causes your fingers to shake, which makes it impossible to embody present. Thought is not the only thing that the hands follow. In addition to grounding it, they magnify it and distort it. In addition, the majority of people go through life without being aware of it, and they use their hands to reinforce the very energetic patterns that they claim they are attempting to break free from. It is not a transient notion to have an intention. The idea is not something that can be written down on a post-it note and then hoped for. It is a frequency that is intention. You have to make a decision that affects every aspect of your being, including your thinking, your neurological system, your breath, and yes, even your hands. It is for this reason that ancient rituals placed a great deal of weight not only on the object that was done, but also on how it was done. The positioning of the hands during prayer, meditation, offerings, and blessings was so exact, intentional, and holy that it was considered sacred, because the knowledgeable were aware of something that we have disregarded. Energy is shaped by form. Vulnerability is produced by movement. Affirmation is not as powerful as posture talks with. Try holding your hands out in front of you with the palms facing upward. Take a deep breath. Observe the change, especially the softening and the sense of receptivity. Just now you have entered a condition of receiving, not in a figurative sense, but in a physical sense. Your neurological system is able to adjust. The sharpness of your focus increases. You are now open not only emotionally, but also as far as your energy is concerned. At this point, turn your palms down. Get a sense of the rootedness, the centering, and the power that is stillness. Next, bring your hands together at the center of your chest. There is a rationale behind the existence of this stance in a variety of civilizations and religions. Balance, unity, prayer, and tranquility are all denoted by it. These actions are not cute in any way. They are signatures that exude vitality. They are a lot of weight. They are responsible for the formation of the electromagnetic field that encircles your body and governs the information that enters or leaves your awareness. From the moment you eat, to the moment you speak, to the moment you touch another human being, your energy is transferred through your hands first. The first to stretch, the first to defend, and the first to connect are all things that they do first. Conversely, when you employ them without being aware of it, you create a contradiction. Inconsistency generates disorder. It's what happens when you claim you want peace, but your body's getting ready for war. When you want connection, but your posture screams withdrawal. And when you meditate to discover clarity, but sit with your hands clasped together and your guard up. There is no bewilderment in the universe, so you are. Furthermore, it is your energy that provides it with instructions. You are perplexed as to why the manifestations do not materialize, why the same cycles continue to occur, and why the intention seems to be empty. Take a look below. In the process of expressing what it is that you desire, where are your hands? Can you access them? How well do they align? On the other hand, are they carrying out a completely other ritual? This is not a lie of the body. Indeed, the hands do not lie. These individuals are the ultimate interpreters of what it is that you truly believe. As a result, the process of healing does not start with ideas. It starts with the act of embodying. Words would not be sufficient to circumvent the energetic code on their own. Living it, breathing it, and gesturing it are all necessary. Intention is not something that can only be sensed. It needs to be conformed. It's because you don't bring what you want into existence. What you are causes you to manifest. Additionally, the very essence of who you are is continuously being crafted, sculpted, and communicated through your hands. During the very beginning of your education, you were instructed to sit on your hands to keep them motionless, to refrain from touching, reaching, and disrupting others. Arrange them in an orderly manner on your desk. Make sure they are kept visible but not moving. Try not to fidget. When you speak, try to avoid using too many gestures. There was no mention of manners in these guidelines. This was all about having control. Etiquette was not the only thing you were learning. In order to detach yourself from one of your most ancient tools of awareness, you were being conditioned to do so. You are not taught how to make effective use of your energy by the educational system. You will learn how to repress it through this. On every location, the structure is exactly the same. One hand should be raised to talk, and the other hand should be used to take notes. Sit in rows with your hands facing each other. When you reach out with your hand, it transforms into the hand that writes types and signs. The hand that directs, however, never happens. Rarely is it the hand that is attentive. Instead of being taught to identify your hands with creativity or consciousness, you were taught to associate them with obedience and productivity. And then there was technology. In the place where the classroom had left off, the screen took over. In the past, your hands were formed by gestures, but now they are formed by functions. Take a tap, swipe, scroll, and repeat. It is now dopamine loops that are responsible for the creation of rituals. Within a digital system that feeds on distraction, the hands have been limited to the role of instruments of interaction, input, and output mechanisms. On the other hand, what is truly being lost is touch. It's not simply the physical contact, it's also the feeling of being connected on the inside. To the physical body, to the breath, and to the presence that you are. Keep an eye out. People are more likely to touch their phones than they are to touch the ground. They have a greater impact on other people more than they are aware of themselves interacting with themselves. Despite this, they are perplexed as to why they are experiencing a numbness, why they are perpetually exhausted. What causes anxiousness to seep in like static electricity at the edges of every moment of peace and calm for you? In no way is it a mystery. A disconnection has occurred. From the neck up, you were never intended to be the sole person in your life. It was never intended for the mind to be able to carry everything by itself. There was a purpose behind the body. Hands were supposed to be used for guiding. Nevertheless, this poses a threat to the system. Due to the fact that when individuals are conscious of their energy, they become more difficult to manipulate. They cease to react in an automatic manner. They withdraw their attempts to find phony solace. Eventually, they become aware of situations in which their instincts do not correspond to the environment. A threat is posed by awareness. Consequently, the system promotes levels of loudness, activity, and consumption. Also, the hands tend to fall into routines that are not aware. Repeating, grabbing, clicking, and refreshing the screen. You are still moving your fingers despite the fact that you believe you are resting. You believe that you are relaxing, yet your nervous system is always seeking for new information. It appears like your hands are constantly conveying signals, yet none of them are deliberate. As a result, energetic static is produced. It obscures your field of vision. Your intuition is thrown off by it. When your fingers are yelling for stimulation, you are unable to hear the murmurs that your body is making inside of you. On the other hand, all of this may be turned around. You did not come into this world divorced. It was a part of your training. In other words, you are able to unlearn it, revitalize what had become dormant. The first step is not a significant or memorable one. Remembering is the key. One must always keep in mind that every action is a decision. It is a curriculum that every posture is. There is a transmission with every touch. To answer your query, whose program are you now operating? Which is it, the one they handed you or the one you own? Putting your hands together in silence will give you an indication of how you feel about the situation. It is not in a state of reaction or distraction, but rather when one is aware. When you do that, the noise begins to disappear from the environment. Additionally, beyond the surface of the silence, your own power starts to come back. Earlier than you ever spoke a single word, your body spoke with you. You immediately reached out, curled your fingers, and sought for protection, and pushed away what felt wrong long before you learned how to form sentences. This was not merely a matter of physical behavior. Your first language was that language. Intuition, sensation, and energy are the aspects of this language. It was a language that did not demand any mental effort, but only presence. And you were able to use your hands with ease. They were aware of what actions to take. However, throughout the course of time, that language got supplanted by noise, structure, and scripts. Instead of listening to yourself, you were instructed to listen to the world around you, in order to refrain from acting on instinct and instead wait for permission, to determine your value based on your work rather than your knowledge. These days, the majority of people are living in a state of constant detachment. While they are striving to find solutions to problems that their bodies already know the answers to, they live in their heads. While their neurological systems are screaming for attention, they engage in mental pursuits in an attempt to achieve clarity. On the other hand, the body and the hands begin to whisper. Furthermore, if you never acquire the skill of listening to those whispers, you will end up mistaking them for noise, tension, or distraction, when in reality they are the first step toward every breakthrough that you have been anticipating. Aesthetics are not the focus of re-establishing a connection with the hands. There is no need to engage in spiritual posturing. This is about regaining access to your own personal dashboard for your energy needs, mainly due to the fact that you will be able to access a more profound level of intellect once the body begins to communicate again and the hands begin to listen. The one who is able to recognize when something is not quite right before rationality can catch up with them. The one who recognizes when you are not in harmony with yourself long before life compels you to pay attention to a problem. Take baby steps. Recognize your hands while you are silent. Are they in a tense state, chilly, not at ease? Or do they have a tight grip on them? Are you still or twitching? There is more to these experiences than meets the eye. That is, they are pointers. There is no randomness in your nervous system. Without having a tale to tell, your energy will not move. A conversation is taking on between the inner and the outer world, with each and every twitch, sensation, and subtle shift that occurs. And as you get more proficient in this language, you will find that you need less and less on the affirmation of others to tell you how you are feeling. Your body is in a condition of receiving when your hands are resting with the palms facing up. When you interlace your fingers and tense them, you are unknowingly getting ready for tension. When you breathe in and place one hand on your heart, the body perceives this as a sign of safety. This is not a free-form guess. They are responses that have been encoded via thousands of years of evolution, ritual, and energy memory. Additionally, as you reestablish a connection with them, you start to recapture something that the world is attempting to steal from you with all its might, your own sensitivity. Because being sensitive does not mean being weak. Information is what it is. Yes, it is depth. Yes, it is power. When you become more aware to your own energetic language, it becomes more difficult for manipulation to grab hold of you. You recognize the absence of genuine urgency. There is no needless conflict that you avoid. The pull of alignment is something you sense before the world tells you what is profitable, acceptable, or strategic. When you move, you do so without fear. Also, the hands will be the first to point you in the right direction. The concept of intuition is frequently conceived of as a noble inner voice that is hidden deep within thought. But the majority of the time, it is a physical issue. The gut, the breath, and the fingertips are all places where it can be felt. Your intuition is present in the instant that your hand hesitates before making contact with something that does not feel right. During the pause that occurs before you shake someone's hand, you may have the impression that something is awry. When you say a truth that connects with others, it is the warmth that spreads through your palms. And when you tell a falsehood that you just attempted to convince yourself was genuine, it is the coldness that comes along with it. Your body is aware of it. Your hands are aware of it. And the only thing that is necessary is to refrain from overriding them. Should abandon the presumption that intellect is confined to the mind alone, since the hands were never considered to be incompetent instruments. They served as messengers of the sacred. They are the ones who carry the stories that your lips is unable to convey yourself. They bring to light the realities that your mind has been attempting to bury. In addition, when you re-establish a connection with them, not only does clarity return, but direction does as well. You don't require any further guidance. You are in need of restarting. Re-establishing a connection with the aspect of yourself that has been fighting for your attention for a number of years. It is not in the distance. Right now, you are holding it in your own two hands. Altering your life does not require you to move into a monastery. You don't need a mountain, a mantra, or a spiritual leader to practice spirituality. The quiet, focused moments that realign your energy and remind your nervous system who is in charge are what you need to return to. You need a practice, a ritual, and a return to those moments. The fact of the matter is that you are already engaging in rituals on a daily basis. This is the manner in which you check your phone as soon as you wake up. The manner in which your hands reach for caffeine before your body has even made a request for gasoline. The manner that you scroll with your thumb as if it were absolutely natural to you. These are also rituals, however, they are ones that are performed unconsciously. Your energy field is trained by every ritual, regardless of whether you intend to do it or not. Consequently, what takes place when you turn on that switch? What happens when you no longer behave out of compulsion and instead begin to act with intention? The energy in you changes. Your focus transforms into a magnetic force. There is no longer any doubt about your presence. Plus, it does not require a lot of hours of practice. The consistency is required. Every day it takes a few moments to announce to your system, your field, and your reality that this is the person I am becoming. It is possible to unlock this shift by using certain hand postures. In the past, yogis, mystics, and healers would carry out these practices in complete quiet. This is not a superstition. Rather, it is a sacred component. However, when combined with breath mindfulness and emotional clarity, they transform into keys that may be used to reprogram the space around you, as well as the space within you. In the gesture of accepting, the palms are open, the fingers are soft, and the hands are lying upwards on the lap or at the sides of the person. No, this is not merely an indication of openness. It's a demonstration of trust. It communicates to the body that it should relax its guard, let go of its grip, and allow. The thing that you are opposing cannot be received by you. The majority of people go through life with their hands clasped together, wondering why nothing flows. An open hand is not a passive gesture. They have a lot of power. It is said that I am prepared. I am with you. I have the capacity to hold anything comes my way. Then there is the gesture of creation, which consists of the palms facing downward and either resting on the lap, being put firmly on a surface, or being extended as far as possible. It is a form of grounding and anchoring. The act of placing your hands downwards is a subtle command to return to build and to calm your thoughts and emotions when they are spiraling out of control and when you feel as though they are fleeing you. You would not be lost. You are very disorganized. This is the method by which you can regain your composure. And then there was the gesture of unification, known as the Anjali Mudra, which consists of pressing the hands together at the heart. This is a worldwide symbol that represents reverence, prayer, respect, and alignment. When it comes to giving and receiving mind and heart, left and right, feminine and masculine, and so on. At the precise time when your hands come together in the middle of your chest, your energy will follow. Completeness is restored to you. The purpose of the ceremony is not to make a good appearance. It is integration, and even if you do not yet comprehend the reason for its significance, it carries weight. In order to get started, you do not need to be perfect. It is not necessary for you to be familiar with the names of each mudra or the chakras that are affected by them. You just need to start to choose presence over reaction, to choose silence over noise, to take one moment every morning and one breath every evening to remind yourself that your energy is not random. Rather, it is programmable. You are the one who coded the application. It is the world's desire for you to forget this. Your behavior should be reactive and floating, and you should be stuck in a cycle of distraction and want. On the other hand, a straightforward action that is carried out with genuineness has the power to bring you back to yourself more quickly than any affirmation or motivational movie ever could. Not only does it alter your mentality, but it also alters the frequency that you receive information. The power of daily energetic ritual can be felt in this way. However, not for the purpose of performance or aesthetics, but rather for the purpose of realignment, truth, and remembering. Having a dispersed lifestyle was never intended for you. You were destined to have a life that is magnetic, clear, and directed. And it begins not tomorrow, not in some far-off future, but in the next breath, the next moment, the next choice to place your hands intentionally back into the field of your becoming. This is where it begins. The energy never remains neutral. At all times, it is constantly moving, constantly responding, and constantly being formed, either by you or by something else. And even when you are not actively directing it, it is not just sitting around doing nothing. It becomes manipulated, leaked, and shaped to conform to the goals of another individual. The expense of the emails, the advertisements, the scrolling feeds, the worry, and the anxiety is all a part of the equation. And your energy is the coin that you use. You are responsible for paying attention to every distraction. Every tense gesture that you make in focus costs you money. Every misaligned action will result in the degradation of your own clarity, which is the price you pay. Worse than that, however, is this. You frequently aren't even aware that it's taking place. When you fail to pay attention to your energy field, it does not disappear. It gets porous with time. Not what is accurate, but what is loudest takes up the majority of the space. Because of this, you begin to react rather than choose. Because of causes that you are unable to explain, you start to feel fatigued. You find yourself imbued with emotions and thoughts that are not your own, and you experience a sense of urgency that was never intended to be yours. The cost of passivity in terms of energy is as follows. You are not being protected or directed by your hands, which are the most potent instruments of energetic purpose, but rather you are being commanded to obey. When you unknowingly reinforce the beat of another person, you are sacrificing your own rhythm for every time that you spend doing so. It is the hand that you use to check your phone while you are lying in bed before you have even remembered to take a breath. To what is it trying to tune in? At what frequency does it serve as a base for you? The manner in which you clench your fists in out of exasperation. The manner in which you type down messages while feeling resentment in your fingers. Your tendency to continue seeking for items that do not provide you with nourishment. These activities are not neutral in any way. Your state, your energy, and the outcomes you experience are all shaped by these unconscious rituals and agreements. Moreover, the system is dependent on it. This is based on the fact that you are disconnected. For it to continue to be fragmented, scattered, and unstable, it needs your energy. Because people who are fragmented are easy to influence, easy to market to, and easy to direct into cycles of diversion where the perception of control is sufficient to keep them compliant. Fragmented people are extremely easy to manipulate. You are under the impression that you are making decisions, but in reality, your gestures have been fully automated, conditioned, and trained to react without inquiry to any input. On top of that, there is the actual risk. You won't even be aware that you're being controlled by force. Rather, you won't even realize that it's happening. What if, on the other hand, you started to retract the gestures you originally made? What would happen if you opened your awareness each time you removed your hand from your pocket? Imagine for a moment that whenever you brought your palms together, you sent a message to your body that you were returning to something that was familiar to you. Not in the guise of a mystical performance, but rather as a silent rebellion against everything that is attempting to drag you away from your own center position. Mainly due to the fact that this is the essence of conscious gesture. It is a declaration. The field was filled with a pulse that said, I am aware of who I am. I am aware of what it is that I desire. It is clear to me what I am calling in. A listener is the field. Energy is what comes next, but only if you take the initiative. You just cannot afford to be inactive with the power that you possess. Not at this time, not any longer. Energy is the new currency and clarity is the new revolution. We are living in a moment when these two paradigms are converging. Those individuals who acquire the ability to control their state, focus their attention, and establish their intentions will be the ones who shape the future. Everyone else will be caught up in the storm that someone else is experiencing. In your hands, you have the ability to either create something or exert control over it, and it is up to you to choose which one. Doing nothing, on the other hand, is still a choice. As a result, the issue that arises is for how much longer are you going to continue to waste your energy on systems that have never had your best interest in mind? Because the moment you make a different choice, when you shape your gestures, When you align your intents and when you act from presence, you start to change not only your energy, but also your timeline. You become the one who shapes reality rather than the one who reacts to it. And that shift, however tiny it may be, is the point at which all great power originated. Over the course of your whole existence, you have been made to believe that your power is located somewhere else, a belief that it is something that must be pursued, earned, or discovered. One's work title, a balance in the bank, an indication of one's social standing. They gave you the impression that if you simply put in enough effort, become likable enough, and perform well enough, then maybe you will discover that you have the ability to feel powerful. But power was never a part of that. That consisted of approval disguised as a cause. Obeying orders was a form of success that was camouflaged. At all times, you have been in possession of genuine power, within your own body, as you take a breath, while you are aware of it, and it is in your control. Your hands are the last frontier in everything. Despite being the conclusion of the neurological system, they mark the beginning of the creative process. It was your hands that were responsible for everything you have ever constructed, touched, shaped, held, or let go of. You have passed through them every single word that you have written, every single gesture of love or opposition, and every single boundary that you have drawn or crossed. Despite this, the majority of people utilize their hands throughout their entire lives without ever having a complete comprehension of what they are. The conductors, the antennas, the reflections of your own internal health. They are acting, but they are also transmitting. The coherence of your hands will begin to radiate when your thoughts are in harmony, when your words are unambiguous, and when your actions are founded on the truth. This coherence even has a magnetic effect. Opportunities, clarity, and healing are all drawn to it, not due to a stroke of good fortune or random occurrence, but rather because you are no longer transmitting noise. The signal is being emitted by you. The difference between living by reaction and living by intention is that this is the difference. In between the pursuit of life and the creation of it. You do not require additional rituals, rather you require more presence. Learning 10 new techniques is not necessary. All you need to do is become proficient in one simple motion that is performed intentionally. It is at this point that the metamorphosis takes place. The sincerity of the presence that is behind the practice is more important than the complexity of the practice itself. When you bring your palms together at the center of your chest and take a single breath with intention, the entire system reacts. Your thoughts become more sluggish. The depth of your breath increases. Resetting occurs in the energy that surrounds you. The reason for this is that your body is able to remember things that your ego has forgotten. Remembrance is the essence of ritual. Language can be expressed using gestures, and when it is said fluently, it entirely alters the situation. It is not your intention to run away from your life. Your purpose in being here is to totally, fiercely, and consciously embody it. The invisible and the seen, the thinking and the act, the idea and the result are all connected through your hands, which serve as a bridge between the two. When you touch your own heart, you are not just providing solace. You are also establishing coherence inside of yourself. You are not doing nothing when you keep your hands open in silence. Rather, you are getting ready to accept something of great value. Through the conscious movement of your fingers, you are rewriting stories, tracing new brain patterns, and reclaiming your own signal from the background noise. You are not the only one affected by this. Each time you reclaim a gesture, you create space for someone else to do the same. Without saying a word, you remind others that their energy is sacred, their body is wise, and their presence just as it is enough. One conscious act at a time, you become part of a quiet revolution. Because this isn't just about hands, it's about sovereignty. It's about remembering the part of you that was never conditioned, never broken, never lost. The part that has always known how to shape energy, speak truth, hold space, and create futures without asking for permission or apologizing for existing. If you've felt this message in your body, if your breath has slowed, if something ancient inside you is stirring, then you already know. This isn't something to be taught, it only needs to be remembered. You're invited not to follow but to feel, not to imitate but to reclaim, to bring this remembrance into your daily life, into your work, your movements, your relationships. To reconnect your hands not just for ritual, but to rediscover who you are when no one is watching. Because ultimately, this isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the person you were before the world told you who to be. And the moment your actions align with that truth, the world around you must respond. You're not just walking a new path, you're shaping it. With every choice, every breath, every small movement. If you haven't yet joined Insights Academy, now's the time. You're not just missing knowledge, you're missing connection. Inside, we explore what cannot always be spoken openly here. And for a limited time, you'll receive a free digital copy of the Kabbalion, a guide to the ancient principles you've just begun to awaken. If this video spoke to something inside you, let us know in the comments, and if you're ready to go deeper, subscribe. The path of remembrance has already begun.